I'm A.D. Ellis, and I'm very excited to be reading for Chapter 1 live today. I'm the author of a Torey Hope novel series, and that series starts with 3 books for Nikki, Because of Beckett, and Christmas and Torey Hope. Those books do need to be read in order, but my newest release is a standalone in the series. It's called Loving Josie, and it releases on January 19th. This is part of the Torey Hope series, but it doesn't have to be read in order. So I'm going to start with Chapter 1 for Chapter 1 live, and I'll read about 5 minutes. Chapter 1, Josie Decker. I've never felt loved, not one single moment in my life, until I arrived in Torey Hope. Every memory I have from the beginning of my existence is one of being a bother, an afterthought, and a hassle, disposable. I was only good for the positive gain and social status for others, and when I disappointed again and again, I was pushed aside time after time. Then I knocked on my Uncle Robert's door, and I knew love and acceptance for the first time in my life. My name is Josie Decker. I'm the unwanted child of Richard Joseph and Corinne Ruth Decker. My father, a business mogul, married my mother for 2 reasons. She was already a highly successful businesswoman in her own right. Her connections would be good for him. His connections would propel her higher in the business world. The second reason was that in addition to the business world, they were both very high up on the social ladder. The wedding of Richard and Corinne Decker was the event of the year in New York. Everyone who was anyone clamored to be invited or at least involved in some way. My parents weren't just high society in New York. They rubbed elbows with billionaires and movie stars out in Los Angeles as well. Even in Tokyo and London, the name Decker was associated with wealth and success. Getting pregnant with me was a tragedy in the eyes of both of my parents. Richard and Corinne did not love each other. They didn't dislike each other, but they were in the marriage only for mutual gain and gratification. I'm not sure how they got pregnant with me. In my entire life, I never saw a loving touch between the two of them. The story that was told to me several times over the years was that Corinne had an IUD, so she never suspected her early pregnancy symptoms could have been what they were. She was 6 months along when she finally had to admit that the IUD had failed and she was expecting. Richard was furious with her. How could she let this happen? They couldn't be saddled with a child if they were going to continue their climb up the business and social ladders. Corinne lashed back that he was just as much at fault. She was devastated at what this would do to her body, her career, and her social standing. They attended a secret appointment with a doctor they knew from their social circles. Their hopeful idea to terminate the pregnancy was dashed when it was confirmed how far along Corinne was in the pregnancy. My mother told me numerous times over the years that she should have just admitted her symptoms to herself earlier so she could have terminated me. Yeah, I love you too, Mother. Seriously, what type of person says that to their child? So she hid the pregnancy as best she could for the next few months. She didn't want her business associates thinking of her as a weak female who didn't know how to not get knocked up. I was born 3 weeks early. Not because I was ready to be born. They paid the doctor a hefty fee to induce delivery because there was a trip to Tokyo they both needed to be on. I was born on a Wednesday. Having not cared enough to find out the sex of their baby before delivery, disappointment reigned when it was announced that I was a girl. At least a boy would have been a more rightful heir to their business fortune. As a punishment for not being the boy they would have been more satisfied with, they named me Josephine, combining my mother's first name and my father's middle name. My parents left for Tokyo on Saturday. I was left with the first of many nursemaids and nannies. Richard and Corinne were gone on their business trip for 30 days. Upon their return, they walked to the nursery to look at me and inquire of the nursemaid about me. They did not pick me up or kiss me. They did not speak to me or make over me the way most new parents would have. They left the next morning for a 3-month trip to London. Never once did I come before their business ventures. These stories were told to me by various nannies over the years, passed down from one to the other before one was let go for various infractions. Most were for showing me any physical affection. My mother told me that the idea of hugging or kissing me made her shudder. Corinne Decker did not show affection. My parents hired only strict and unloving nannies and help. They did not want me babied or coddled. If I had to come along and put such a kink in their plans, I may as well serve a purpose. They decided that they would groom me to be a business guru right alongside of them. I was to be schooled and trained so that I could one day step right into their world. Josephine Decker would become a business force to reckon with. The joke was on them, though. I was a girly girl. I was creative, constantly singing and dancing and drawing and painting. This was frowned upon by my parents and discouraged and ridiculed at every turn. Josephine Marie Decker would not have an artistic flair. Businesswomen were not successful for creativeness or uniqueness. A strong businesswoman should be disciplined, brilliant, and proper. I learned to celebrate my parents' month-long trips. I could let loose and be me when they were gone. Well, as much as someone can be free with staunch rules and nannies around every corner. I had one nanny who nicknamed me Josie. She was later fired for hugging me when I fell and scraped my knee, but the name of Josie stuck for me. I called myself Josie to anyone who would listen. This infuriated my parents. They insisted that I be called Josephine and severely reprimanded me if they heard me use the nickname. Alright, I'm going to stop there because chapter 1 goes a little bit longer than what I want to do for this video. But you go on to meet Josie and get more of her history, the way she was treated by her parents and how she grew up. And then you get to meet Kyle Martin and sort of his backstory. And then there are reasons why they both come to Torey Hope. And then their story takes off once they both reach Torey Hope. So I hope you'll check out my books. They're available on Amazon, and Loving Josie releases January 19th. It'll be available on all platforms. The others will be available on the other platforms for a little while. And check out the rest of the videos on Chapter 1.